So let's talk about Code Geass, Roze of the Recapture, releasing as 4 acts, or movies in theaters, Act 1 being released May 10th, Act 2 on June 7th, Act 3 July 5th, and Act 4 coming August 2nd. Disney Plus began releasing these episodically worldwide June 21st, with each act encompassing 3 episodes each. And just a few days ago, Episode 3 came out, finishing out Act 1, which is what I'll be covering today. So let's get into it. Episode 1, Melting Snow. Episode 1 begins with a couple children, Sakuya and Sakura, more on them later, running from a couple nightmare frames. They get shot at and separated on a cliffside before cutting to a recap of the Holy Britannian Empire, detailing its fall with its 99th emperor, Lelouch. Keep in mind this takes place in the continuity built in the 3 compilation movies leading into Resurrection, which this takes place after. The empire was broken down into smaller countries, with Schneisel banding most of them together into the United Federation of Nations. Peace was achieved for a bit, but, war never changes. In the 3rd year of this new Koa period, which began at the time of Zero Requiem, and is a year after Resurrection, remnants of Britannia attacked the United States of Japan's Hokkaido bloc, taking control and establishing Neo-Britannia. I gotta say though, naming conventions for countries or factions at Code Geass are hilarious. Anyway, Japan can't seem to catch a break from people wanting to take it over. We then get the opening, which is alright. It ain't no colors, I'll tell you that. We then go to our main characters, Ash and Roze. They're sussing out Satump Tower, which is projecting a barrier that's isolating Japan, with their target being just outside it. Ash is working on his nightmare frame, and says they'll be staying put and camping there. They also have this amazing cat. Look at this grumpy, chubby thing. Then we cut to inside Japan. We see Grand Kirkwayne, a Neo-Britannian with that classic Britannian hatred of the Japanese, shooting at a guy sitting up on the bridge rail. The guy asks why they're doing this, despite not being terrorists or collaborators, and really Grand is just a sadistic asshole, calling him an 11 while shooting. His brother Greed tells him to let it go, to which Grand just kills the guy. Greed apologizes to the guy's wife, but she was obviously not having any of it, so he shoots her too. They tell the rest of the crowd that they need to learn their place, explain that their lord Jugo Sumeragi is dead, Sakuya is in prison, and that the tower they built to keep Britannia out is now serving Neo-Britannia, crushing the Black Knight's invasion twice. Afterwards, they off everyone. The next morning, we see Ash and Roze listen to news of what happened the night before at the bridge, the people slaughtered being referred to as 3611 terrorists. They then stop at a gas station to fuel back up. The guy in charge hits one of his workers for spilling some oil, and berates her for being an 11, Neo-Britannia being Britannian. Ash intervenes and Roze gives the manager a talking to which he completely 180s his attitude towards her. This will make sense later. We then move on to the 7 Shining Stars hideout, whom Ash and Roze are going to meet. One of them is hesitant to trust our boys, but they have a good track record as the nameless mercenaries. Cutting back to Ash and Roze, Ash finds a box of kittens floating in the river. Apparently they just keep taking in stray animals, which is adorable. Hilariously, Ash is the one that keeps grabbing them. Roze ends up putting them up for adoption though. They meet up with Haruka Rutaka, one of the 7 Shining Stars at a theater. She asks them to kill both Gran and Greed, since they're really just killing Japanese for fun and not actually conducting counter-terrorist operations. They also killed her parents 2 years prior. Roze asks Ash what he thinks, but he seems to just be along for the ride and will go with whatever Roze wants to do. Roze accepts the job and they head out that night. At the Kirkwayne domain, Gran is patrolling around looking for 11 terrorists, as their police force couldn't deal with them. On the road, they see a big package. It opens up and shows our boys, Roze being as theatrical as Lelouch. After revealing that they are the nameless mercenaries, they begin their operation. Ash kites the nightmare frames around and shoots the door open to where Greed is, allowing Roze to infiltrate. While Ash is dealing with the nightmare frames outside, Roze takes care of Greed's security force and challenges him to a chess match, which is basically just Ash against Grand's forces. Ash gets cornered, but he puts his nightmare frame into a high-performance mode and basically destroys Grand's forces easily. They engaged 1v1, but Gran is extremely outmatched and gets killed. Cutting back to Roze, Greed says they'll just make enemies out of Neo-Britannia. Roze is undeterred, and reveals that he is actually Sakuya Sumeragi. We also learn that it was the Kirkwayne unit that was chasing both her and Sakura at the beginning of the episode and separated them. Sakuya then Geasses him, telling him to save 100 times the amount of Japanese people that he's killed, or refuse and die. Obviously he refuses and ends up deleting himself. They meet back up with Haruka, and asks if she trusts them now, and reveals that they know she's the leader of the 7 Shining Stars. They then ask what the real mission is, since that one was just a trust exercise. They're then tasked with rescuing people from this Abashiri prison. where Sakura seems to be. The episode then ends. So a quick breakdown then. The two girls from the beginning are Sakuya and Sakura. Sakuya becomes Roze. Sakura is mistaken for Sakuya and is being held captive. Ash is Rose's older brother. More on that later. And they're a mercenary duo, mostly to stick it to Neo Britannia. Sakuya has a Geass power similar to Lelouch's, and is very much like Lelouch. More tactical and strategic than Ash, who's more ace pilot-like, like Suzaku. I'll more briefly go over the next two episodes, so let's move on. Episode 2, Ice Wall. It begins with a group of 7 shining stars attacking the Abashiri prison on their own, trying to rescue their general. It doesn't pan out, but it gives Roze some good intel on the prison's defenses. Ash is giving a dog a bath while everyone discusses their next plan. At the prison, Arnold Rank, a Schwartz Knight, is wary of the nameless mercenaries, and is accounting for them helping out the 7 Shining Stars group. But the warden isn't worried about it, as he believes the prison is impregnable. We then briefly see Catherine Sabathra. More on her later. Back to Ash and Roze. They continue planning out their mission. They're not telling the others about Sakuya being at the prison. Roze is joining Ash on the assault, despite Ash not wanting him to. They begin the operation, launching their nightmare frame on a giant rocket. The prison's defenses aren't enough to stop them, and they land safely, though Roze got knocked out briefly. The others outside the prison begin their part of the plan, and Roze infiltrates the command center, Geassing the commander into releasing the prisoners. Shortly after all the chaos, Roze sees Sakura. They have a nice heart-to-heart, and we get a flashback of them as kids. The warden shows up, but Sakuya already Geassed him into being an ally. He tells him that Catherine is on her way to the prison to take decoy Sakuya to a different location. Elsewhere on the prison, the other group made their way on, found the enemy's hangar of nightmare frames, and hijacks them. On their way out, though, Arnold Rank intercepts them. A fight breaks out. The 7 Shining Stars are on the back foot, but Ash is dealing with them well enough on his own. Cutting back to Roze and Sakura. They're about to take their leave, but Catherine intervenes. She makes quick work of the 2 nightmare frames they have, grabs Sakura, claiming she's the heir to Britannia's throne, and bails. Catherine tells Arnold that she's acquired Sakuya and to head out, but Arnold wants to deal with Ash first. Roze then goes and frees Kuroto, thanking him for his service of her father. Afterwards, Ash finishes up his fight with Arnold, killing him. Arnold also reveals Ash's full name, Ash Phoenix. More on this in a minute. Back at the hideout, everyone is celebrating their victory. Roze and Ash discuss their next move, saving Sakuya from Neo Britannia's headquarters. Roze then asks Ash who the most important person to him is, and we get a brief flashback of Sakuya Geassing Ash. The episode ends with Sakuya saying she will avenge her father and kill Ash. So let's go over some important plot points in this episode. So Ash's full name is Ash Phoenix, who previously worked for Neo Britannia. Roze Geassed Ash into believing that they're brothers, and they form the Nameless Mercenaries. It can also be assumed at this point that Ash was the one that killed Sakuya's father, since she mentioned avenging him and killing Ash at the same time. A couple smaller notes are Catherine being introduced, who will probably be an issue later on due to her piloting skills, and the 7 Shining Stars general being rescued. So let's move on to Episode 3. Episode 3, Raspberry. This episode begins with Nara Vaughn, Kristoff Scissorman, and Heath Lott raising hell at the Eastern, Northern, and the 7 Shining Stars resistance bases. Despite the groups not doing well, it seems Roze has a plan already, calling it Operation Rat Trap. The Eastern and Northern bases fell, but the 7 Shining Stars hideout fared much better. The Black Knights are discussing their options, and even brought up Kaguya Sumeragi. Back at Neo Britannia's HQ, all the high ranks are talking about their attacks on the resistance bases, with Heath failing miserably at dealing with the 7 Shining Stars hideout. Commander Norland says he's no longer required, and Heath exits life. Norland tells Scissorman to fill the seat for Heath, but Scissorman gets distracted with seeing Natalia Luxemburg, and gives us a backstory on her. Back at the Shining Stars base, they're celebrating their win against Heath. Ash and Roze also take a couple days off. Roze is hanging out at a cafe, with Natalia, who we saw earlier. Seems like she's helping them out. She doesn't know about Sakuya's Geass power. In fact, no one does. After dressing up as a maid to help around the cafe, another one of the girls brings in Ash after he helps her from some jerks that were harassing her. Ash is obviously unaware of Rose's true identity. He also seems to have gotten a crush on her, and rants about things he likes and does. We then see Natalia with Callus Britannia, the 100th Emperor of Neo Britannia, discussing the cafe and maybe opening another one up. We also see Catherine talk with Sakura, who doesn't seem too happy about becoming her personal knight. Cutting back to Roze and Natalia, we see a brief flashback of Sakuya asking Natalia for help in saving Sakura. Natalia said she'll do whatever she can. Natalia also says she's welcome at the cafe whenever she wants. Back at Neo Britannia, we see Callus dying on the throne, getting poisoned by a small robotic mosquito. Then we're back at the Shining Stars base, introducing a few new nightmare frames. The Sekka for the Black Knights, a customizable ace unit called Keisetsu, and the Flying Nightmare frame Artemis for Roze, so he doesn't have to bunk with Ash anymore. After the new unit introductions, Roze and Ash talk about their time off, with Ash mentioning that he might be in love, startling Sakia a bit. They then get news that Callus Al Britannia passed away, and that Sakia will take the throne as the 101st Empress. Afterwards, we see a flashback when Sakia got her Geass power, and guess what? Turns out L2 gave it to her. Or, Lelouch v Britannia. That's right, boys, we got Lelouch here. After that revelation, the episode ends. So let's briefly go over this episode. The Resistance was broken down to seemingly just the Shining Stars hideout. We got a lot of character development with the cafe sequence, giving us a look at Ash without Roze and their general demeanor without the prospects of their goals. The 100th Emperor to Neo Britannia, Callus, was killed to plant Sakia on the throne as the 101st Empress. We got some new nightmare frames for the conflicts ahead, some new ones for the Black Knights, a new ace unit for someone, and a flying support unit for Roze, much like the Shinkiro or the Gawain for Lelouch, and that ending reveal of Lelouch was pretty top tier, so I hope we see more of him. So far, Roze of the Recapture is awesome. Act 1 sure did feel like some Code Geass, although a bit more condensed. My thoughts may change as the anime goes on, but I'm enjoying the theatrics, silliness, and dramatic twists. The action has been good, and I have high expectations for the conflicts coming up, and more crazy plot twists. I suspect Sakia will not go through with killing Ash, instead learning to understand him more, and both of them coming to actually know each other, not as Roze, but as Sakia, but who knows. In any case, that was Act 1. I'll probably make these videos for the other acts, so the 3 episodes in one, and release them when the act is finished. Let me know what you think of the series so far. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Consider subscribing to keep up to date on my mecha coverage. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.